if you're someone who feels like you haven't like historically been represented at Cambridge and you've been considering applying, I think like that's all the more reason to do it. Like I feel like it's been beneficial for me to like come in and like share my ideas, and I've always been like fairly loud about what I believe in. I think that's something that like everyone should feel able to do.
Hello everyone, welcome to Cambridge from the Inside. We're here with a new guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Florence and I'm a third year law student here at Trinity Hall.
Nice. And we're here today to talk about ethnicity in Cambridge, ethnicity in general, queries and worries or questions or myths students might have about Cambridge, and wanting to talk about what life is like at Cambridge as well. So to start off, if there's a prospective applicant who, for whatever reason, was worried about fitting in at Cambridge, what would you say to them?
I think like the worry about fitting in at Cambridge, I don't think is unique. Like I think the first thing I'd say is like, you should be aware everyone is probably feeling like that. But I think like the biggest thing to realize about Cambridge and university in general is that like it's so much bigger than school. It's so much bigger than any sixth form, any college. And like you really do find your people, especially somewhere like Cambridge. You have so many people coming from so many different backgrounds, studying so many different things. Like you just find your people. And I think it's like, it can take time, but I don't think necessarily it's like you have to fit a mold. There's no real like ideal Cambridge student. I think that's something to be aware of. Yeah.
Nice. So when you say like it might take some time, like, and from my understanding, there's like a freshers week, and before that in Trinity Hall they have like an induction week. How long would you say most people like kind of find their groups of friends, or is it different for everyone?
I think it's probably different for everyone. I think like the induction week at Tit Hall was really good because like at least when I did it, we were the only real college in Cambridge, so we all got quite close quite quickly. But I think in terms of like more generally outside of your own college, like when you start going to like lectures, subject dinners, like societies and things like that, your circle broadens and you find more people. So I think in terms of like your college friend base, that can develop quite quickly, but you're always going to keep like making new friends and meeting new people.
Yeah. So someone like by the end of freshers week, if they feel like they haven't met people that they really click with, they shouldn't be worried. That's like kind of a normal thing.
Yeah, very normal. I think some of my closest friends in Cambridge are people I met like way outside of freshers week. It's very normal to just like keep meeting people. You shouldn't feel like you won't have any friends if by the 7 days like you've been in Cambridge you've not really clicked with anyone.
Nice. And a lot of students who are part of a minority ethnicity might be worried about applying to Cambridge or fitting in at Cambridge, because Cambridge historically has been seen known as prominently white male university. Obviously, things have changed and applications have been broadened, but for individuals who are worried about that fitting in at Cambridge, should they be worried about that?
Like again, I think like it's a very valid concern to have. Like I would be lying if I said I wasn't worried about that when I got here. But I think like having been at Cambridge, like you said, like it isn't so white and so male anymore. It isn't like it was. And I think like there is a real space for minority ethnic students, and like we're crafting out a space. Like we have like, there are so many societies, there are so many ways for people to meet and mingle, and like it's important to feel like there's a place for you here. Yeah, I wouldn't say being from a minority ethnic background will make you any less like suitable for Cambridge, and I wouldn't say that you should feel that either.
Yeah. So you're in your third year now, like halfway through your third year now. How have you found like your time in Cambridge, and was like ethnicity a thing, or were you able to like kind of fit in seamlessly, or like how's your experiences been so far, would you say?
Yeah, I think halfway through my third year, like I feel like I've been here for ages, and I think things have like changed for me. I've like really enjoyed my time at Cambridge. I think in terms of like ethnicity, there have been times where it's been like I feel very aware of the fact that I'm Black, but it's not always necessarily like in a bad way. Sometimes it's like, I think the one thing about Cambridge is like I've met a lot of people, and there are a lot of people you meet who just, they haven't really interacted with people from different races or different backgrounds. Like you'll meet a lot of people who've lived and grown up in very predominantly white areas, and they aren't familiar with like meeting Black people or brown people, people from different backgrounds. So I think like it's those situations where I'll be like, oh, like this is new for everyone here, and that's something I've had to grapple with. But I think, yeah, generally, like I don't feel like my race gets in the way of me being a Cambridge student, and I would never feel like that. Like I think I can be a Cambridge student and be Black and not have it be a big thing. I think it's just very much just how I've existed.
Nice. And so those times where like you kind of feel like you're surrounded by people who haven't had many experiences in diverse communities, like can you think of like an example when that's happened?
Yeah, I guess like one thing is like talking about hair, I think is one thing. Like I have braids.
Yeah.
And I think yeah, like it's just like some people just aren't familiar with that. It's not something they understand. Whereas for me, like I've grown up around like getting my hair braided, going to the hair shop, things like that. And it's discussing those kind of things where it's like I think it's kind of realizing that some of it is just unfamiliarity. Like people aren't familiar and people ask questions, and like it was realizing not all these questions are malicious, but they're curious instead.
Yeah.
Kind of reframing it like that. Yeah.
So I guess sometimes there can be like one of two things going on in that. Someone might say something out of ignorance, or someone might be saying something deliberately malicious, and there are two separate things.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, yeah, I don't think I've had many, if any, experiences of people being like deliberately malicious towards me in Cambridge. I've definitely experienced like fair share of ignorance, but like I think it's, you kind of take it on the cuff. Like I'm not, yeah, I don't know. I think it's nice to talk about it with people, because you realize that like people are just curious and they want to know more. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's also want to share that. I didn't study at Cambridge, I studied at Oxford, but without going into it too much, I think from beginning to end was quite seamlessly met my people, and just by chance never really was too conscious about my ethnicity until well after I graduated. And I think that that's a narrative that's important to voice, that lots of people they just have like their experience of university, and their ethnicity doesn't have to be a huge thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice. So on that topic, from either yourself or other people that you know or friends, how conscious do you think students are of their ethnicity whilst they're studying at Cambridge?
I think like I said, like generally it doesn't inform like my day, my life. I think the times where like my ethnicity will inform my study is like there are certain areas of work we'll look at, like certain topics where it's like perspective becomes really important. Like as a law student recently, I've taken papers in criminology and things like that. Like I feel coming it from my background, there are things that I will consider more strongly or in a different way to other people. And I think that's the way that like my race most informs my work. Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of a topic that we got later about different academic research being done by academics from all different backgrounds. Can you shed some light on? Can you expand on that, and how like an academic's like background experiences can inform their research?
Yeah, I think it's just like your background and your perspective are always like important at how you look at something. How I look at something will be informed by like what I read, what I do, who I talk to, how I am as a person. And like in academia more generally, like you'll find different people from different perspectives, and being able to bring those all together in like constructive conversation means that you get like a well-rounded topic. Like everyone together will be part of this conversation. You get something that's like a really holistic kind of view of something, I think. Yeah,
so can you think of any examples of where you felt like you're approaching something quite differently to, like, I don't know, other people in your course?
Yeah, I think generally like supervisions, like most of them, you will have like, at least in law, like we'll discuss like, look at this law, why should it be reformed, or like, is this fit for purpose, things like that. And speaking about it from like with different people from different backgrounds, you'll look at it in different ways, and like you get a kind of better understanding of like different considerations. Yeah.
And I guess all of these things like are all reasons for people who might think they stereotypically aren't what Cambridge is or what Cambridge was. It encourages people from all backgrounds to make an application to Cambridge.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like, if you're someone who feels like you haven't like historically been represented at Cambridge and you've been considering applying, I think like that's all the more reason to do it. Like I feel like it's been beneficial for me to like come in and like share my ideas, and I've always been like fairly loud about what I believe in. I think that's something that like everyone should feel able to do.
Nice. Yeah, a friend of mine was a history student and was doing like a course on families in India during the British Empire, and when I was reading some of his work, it just obviously naturally felt very very personal. He was kind of coming at it from as a completely new area, whereas for me, I'd have had to have done a lot of work trying to separate my experiences and the work itself.
Yeah.
And it's a good example of how people come at it from different perspectives, as you were saying. For someone who wants to find other people who come from a similar background and kind of like talk to people who just kind of get it and get where their perspective and where they're coming from, are there societies for or whether it's nationalities or different ethnicities at Cambridge?
Yeah, Cambridge has like a number of like big cultural like national societies. I think like the big ones that come to mind, we've got ACS, obviously we've got
so what's that stand for?
ACS is the African and Caribbean Society. There's PACSOC, Pakistani, BanglaSoc. We have BGS, which is Black Girl Space, and BGLU, Brown Girl Link Up. Like there are a number of cultural societies, and then there's faith societies. There's like, there's a range, I think, and I think they're very valuable, especially for me in first year. Like I really found BGS was really important for me. Like I went to a lot of the sessions, and it was just nice to speak to other like Black women about like what's it actually like to be in Cambridge, speak to people who've like lived experience. Yeah.
So am I right in thinking that is the major difference between BGS and ACS is that BGS is for women? Is that the main difference?
Yeah, that's the main difference. BGS is for like women and non-binary people to come and share a space. There are similar spaces for Black men. I think the Shiners Project comes to mind. Like, and you have that with a lot of societies. Like, I think they're really valuable in that you can find people who like are like you and have an understanding of like what it's like to be you. And then there are always the bigger umbrella societies too.
Nice. And in general, like, say like throughout a term, what kind of events would like societies like run?
I think like you get a range. I think it depends on the size of the society. Generally, they'll always have some sort of like social event. Like people just get together, you meet up, you do stuff. They'll have ACS are big on like talks. We've got conferences and things. It depends on the term as well. If there's like a big landmark event, something will happen. Like Black History Month, we'll have a formal usually.
Oh, nice. It's like a formal dinner for
Yeah,
the
formal
society.
dinner. It's been at Homerton for the last couple of years, but they're popping up all around the place. So
how many people would be at the formal?
the Homerton formal was really quite large. I think it was easily 100. I think it was really large. We had like speakers come in from outside. It's the main uni-wide one, and then other colleges will do ones. I think King's have done one, Downing have done one, Clare did one last year. So it's just a nice time, I think. It's nice to spend time with people.
Nice. So I guess because formals and college life is like normally done with like friends from your college, but I guess it kind of shows how societies, I imagine, are a good opportunity to meet people from other colleges as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think societies are one of the easiest ways to meet people from other colleges, and like I said, like there's so much going on. There'll generally be an event for everyone where you can try something. Especially, I think the society formals, like you said, are very fun because formals tend to be college based.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a chance to do a formal at another college as well.
Yeah. Is that so? This is a bit of a tangent, but outside of societies, can students go to formals at other colleges? Like if they know someone from another college?
Yeah, if you've got like a friend at another college, you are always welcome to go to a formal at theirs. You'll pay a guest price usually rather than a member price, but it's always open. Same as like if you have friends from outside of Cambridge or family who want to come to a formal, that's something that can be done too. Yeah.
And on top of all that, am I right in thinking there's also like college societies as well?
Yeah, we have college societies, which like the main difference is that they're smaller and college based, so it will tend to be like the people you live with.
And are there any like college societies, at least in Trinity Hall, that are focused around ethnicity or diversity?
I don't think there are societies as such. I think you have like more. They're not formal societies. Like you'll have community and people are willing to talk. I don't think we have like a BME society, but we have like on the JCR there's the BME Officer, and that kind of people will come together and chat about that.
Yeah, that brings us on to our next topic. And can you explain for anyone who doesn't know what a JCR is, what the JCR Committee is, and the BME role?
Yeah, so the JCR's kind of like a school council, I guess. It's like the undergraduate student body, like a committee. They come together, they speak for the undergrads, like they represent them at like governing meetings and to the college. You're the link between the student body and the college leadership and kind of discussing things that want to be changed, things that go forward. And then the BME officer role specifically, you are there to represent Black and minority ethnic students. So it's kind of your link. And
you, not at the moment, in your first year, you were the BME officer? Or?
Yeah, in my first year, I was BME officer. So I sat on a couple committees, and I think we spoke to college a lot about things like representation of Black students. We have the You'll Fit In residential, so we spoke about that at Trinity Hall and how that can like help encourage applicants, encouraging people to apply to Trinity Hall from minority ethnic backgrounds, and things like Black History Month, what we want to see in Tit Hall. Yeah.
So as the BME officer, if I know would students come to you with like concerns of like things that have happened or things that they were worried about?
I think so. I always tried to ask people as well, rather than like leave it open, like with intentionality. But I think it was always good to like speak to people about like things that have happened, things that you might have a concern about that you wouldn't go to the college directly. And I think it was nice to have like take everyone's concerns as a collective and go up rather than on an individual basis. I think that can be quite intimidating, but yeah.
And how did you find that role and like dealing with those?
I quite enjoyed my time as BME officer. I think it was interesting to see like the inside of the college, how the college runs, things like that. But I think it was valuable in like talking to people and talking to the college and like conveying the student sentiment and seeing how they react. I thought it was quite like I always really enjoyed interacting with like senior leadership, especially like the senior tutor, and speaking to him and seeing how the college understand things, because I think it was often like some of the concerns we had were just things that college hadn't realized were happening or like didn't realize how it came across. And I think that was always quite interesting.
So I'd be right in thinking if like a prospective student is watching this, they should be like rest assured that in every college there'd be a BME officer like yourself that they could reach out to, talk to if they had any concerns about something that's happened during their time at Cambridge and they didn't feel like they were comfortable to go to the college about it.
Yeah, very much so. I think in every college, on every JCR, there'll be some form of representation where there'll be someone you can speak to, like as a student, if you don't want to go directly to leadership by yourself. And then like alternative routes, you can always speak to your tutor. Like your tutor's there for your pastoral care outside of academic support. There's someone you can speak to. I always found it valuable to speak to my friends. Like even aside from that, there's always someone to talk to, and there's always someone who's willing to listen.
Yeah, and each college has a wellbeing team as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's university wellbeing team, and there's lots of avenues of support. But I guess each student will find different avenues of support easier to go to than to others. So it's good that there's a BME officer. Picking up on what you were saying, how were the college like were they receptive when like you as the BME officer would like pass on concerns that like other students shared with you?
I think like the college always, like I think it was always valuable that the college listened to me. Like I thought, I always felt like they were willing to like have that conversation, which I found quite good. And I think like, yeah, they were receptive in terms of that. I think in terms of making change, the thing is it's not always easy. So I think like there were a lot of things that I didn't see change immediately, but like speaking to like the BME officer who's come after me, or even looking around college, like you can see that small changes have been made, or like there are mending conversations that have been had, and there are like ongoing discussions about things that can be implemented in response to the queries that were raised by me and people who came before me and people who came after me. So I think like they definitely try and they listen and they try to implement things as much as they can. It's just like things don't always happen immediately.
Because I guess a change might be made, but it might be raised by one BME officer, and then by the time it's implemented, like another BME officer would have like taken their place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And is that a common thing with like the JCR's relationship with the college? Like, would you say like a trend amongst all positions rather than just a...
Oh, yeah, I think it definitely happens like JCR wide rather than as a BME specific thing, just because like turnover happens so quickly. Like your terms are 8 weeks long. Easter term, there's not too much movement because everyone's doing exams. Like things just keep churning. But I think it's always valuable to see that like conversations carry over with turnover. Like it's very much you pick up where they left off rather than starting afresh.
Yeah, nice. So for situations where a student experiences like whether it's microaggressions or racism, what can a student do in those kind of situations when they've experienced that?
Yeah, I think like I guess it kind of depends on how far like you want to take it. If it's something like you feel comfortable, like discuss it with your friends, you can always raise something to your tutor or like the BME officer, like we mentioned, and that's a good way to just kind of like vocalize it, like pass it on to someone. If it's something that you want to be escalated, again, speaking to your tutor and letting them know you'd like it to be like raised or followed up with. You can speak to the wellbeing team, you can go to like senior tutor. There are avenues to go. And then like if it was a college issue and you didn't feel comfortable raising it in college, you can go to like there's the BME campaign, you can speak to people like welfare officers more widely. There's always someone who's willing to advise.
And when you're wanting to raise it as a formal complaint with the college, there are like official channels. Yeah,
there are official channels on like when you raise it, you'll know it's being followed up on. There's a process that they'll like talk you through.
Yeah, and so for situations where someone might have experienced microaggressions, but they don't feel like they want to raise it as a formal complaint, but they just kind of want to be understood in societies like ACS or with your friends, is it common to kind of talk about shared experiences of experiencing microaggressions and kind of talking about it with a sense of humor, but also getting it off your chest.
Yeah, I think definitely. Like, I think, like, in terms of my experience at Cambridge, I've not experienced any, like, overt racism, but, like, microaggressions, like, yeah, definitely. People are just, like, I think sometimes it's, like, it's ignorance, but the thing is, it can be frustrating because it's, like, people just don't understand. I feel crazy sometimes. People just don't get it. And, like, I will talk to it about talk about it with my friends. I'll talk to my friends, like, I'll talk to my Black friends about it. I'll talk to, like, my friends more generally. And it's, like, it's nice to, like, vent, definitely. Like, it's just nice to get it off your chest. But it's kind of, like, yeah, it's nice to have, like, shared experiences. And it's always nice to not validate you necessarily, but it's, like, it happens to other people, you're not crazy. And it's kind of like when you're speaking about it with, like, people, like, sometimes you'll be like, oh yeah, this person just, they don't get it, they keep doing it. It's like, yeah, I don't know, it's nice to have those conversations, definitely.
I guess when you were talking to, like, a friend who kind of understands how you're feeling and understands why you'd feel that way, you guess you kind of feel heard in a way where the person who was ignorant just seems like they just don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's like, yeah, as much as it is ignorance rather than malice, like, most of the time, but it can be irritating, and speaking to someone who understands that and, like, can relate to that is really valuable, because it's just like, Cambridge is hard enough. Like, it's nice to have people who get it, and, like, yeah,
exactly. I think when it's in times when I've can see someone said something through, and I can see it's probably through ignorance. It's frustrating because there's something innocent about ignorance, and you want to be kind of, part of you wants to be, like, forgiving and sympathetic and just move on, because if you're ignorant to something, you can kind of make sense that that's probably maybe not their fault, but then the other way of kind of explaining ignorance, that there might be a systemic or cultural or historic history of why individuals have led to be ignorant, and things could be different. So that kind of there's like a mixed feeling of wanting to just leave it and move on, and feeling deeply enraged at the same time.
I think that's, like, finding the balance is something I've gotten better with. Like, I think in first year I was very much like, I'll just bite my tongue, like, I'll just take it. But, like, eventually, because sometimes it's just like there are certain people you interact with, and it's just like they genuinely haven't had, like, experiences in diverse settings. They've never had to, like, interact with people who aren't like them before. And eventually I realized, like, you can just say something. Like, if it is something that's happening repeatedly, or even just once, and it bothers you and you feel able to, like, you can say something. And I'll just be like, didn't appreciate that you said this, blah, 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 blah. I didn't, like, appreciate this stereotype. And that kind of conversation can be equally as valuable, because it shuts it down. Like, they'll hear you and they'll listen to you. And if they don't, then they don't. But, like, that can be good too.
And if you're finding yourself kind of always feeling like you're having to bite your tongue and not say something, kind of there is a possibility where saying something might, and they're to even slightly realize that that this is making you uncomfortable, could just stop them from doing that there and there. One thing that I found that can be quite productive would be if someone was to say something that I thought was a bit problematic, but could see that they probably didn't realize that was the case. We just kind of ask them, like, why did you use that word, or, like, what makes you say that, and not necessarily deep it too much, but just asking them that kind of question, of even from, like, a place of curiosity. A lot of the time someone will kind of realize, oh, that probably wasn't the best
Yeah.
thing to say, and that might stop them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's recently I was with a group of friends, and one of them started talking about how the Dutch colony gets overlooked and how successful they were, and they stopped halfway, and
Yeah.
and what did I do? I think I talked about how some countries still teach Dutch, which just kind of carrying the conversation, not making it. And I think they were so nervous, and I think they asked, why is that the case? So because they colonized.
Yeah. They got around.
And it was fine, but I definitely felt that like kind of tension of, it's colonization, like.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah. I think like sometimes that's just the worst part, because it's like someone will say something and I'll just be like, I didn't even consider that there was an alternate perspective on this. And like
that, yeah,
like it's just, sometimes I think it's just like it's never something I would have considered. Like it's kind of a learning experience for everyone, I guess.
yeah. And I guess I was lucky in that situation, because they'd kind of caught themselves and then kind of very quickly saw what they were saying from a different light, and then and I imagine from their perspective, if they're surrounded by people who are white, then you can kind of, I imagine, knowing them, they would have felt like it goes without saying that colonization was horrific and is horrific.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of able to safely talk about how expansive a nation was, whilst not having to make that point explicit. But then it's when someone of who's from like a part of a minority ethnicity, myself in this situation, makes you stop to think that might hurt their feelings.
Yeah.
And it's not wrong to kind of, if you're in that position, to say that's like, it's not the most sensitive thing to say.
Yeah.
And you definitely should, if you feel like saying that, should do so. So I was wondering, like, this is a complete tangent, but when you were applying, what were your friends and family's like thoughts about you applying to Cambridge? Were they supportive, or were they worried about Cambridge as a whole?
I think like it was a bit of a mix. I think like my family have always been very much like, do what you want to do, like go ahead, we support you. But I think like definitely like me and my parents had conversations about like race, definitely being like, I've always lived in like predominantly white areas. I've always gone to predominantly white schools, and I like my sixth form, I didn't have the best time, and I was worried about that kind of like replicating at Cambridge. So it's definitely something that we spoke about. But I think like they were supportive, but they were definitely wary. And I think the fact of that is like Cambridge is still like overwhelmingly white, and like especially in the media, like Cambridge looks a lot whiter than it is, or like minority ethnic voices are not as celebrated as like I think they should be. They're not as present as they are actually here. So I think it's definitely something that can be very worrying to people, and it's like it's an unfamiliar environment. Cambridge is weird aside from like the race dimension. Like it's just a strange place. You can't really describe it. But I think like talking about it made it better for everyone, I guess. Like I could hear their worries, I could voice my own, and it's something that we kind of tackled together. And then like as I've gotten more senior through my time at Cambridge, and I'm like more comfortable here, more based in the environment, I think it's like informed them, I guess, and they're less wary than they were, definitely.
Yeah. So was Cambridge as diverse, or like did it lack diversity in the same way your school did, or did it end up being more diverse than your sixth form?
I think I come from like a fairly unique position, I guess, from like more ethnic background, where like, Cambridge is like considerably more diverse than my sixth form was. I'm like, and for me, that's something I really enjoy. Like, I really enjoy having like a community of people who like look like me and are like me and understand what it's like to be Black in a predominantly white place. I think for a lot of people, like, it's the opposite, and they come to Cambridge and it's not as representative as like their previous backgrounds, like where they've been before.
Like if they're coming from like big cities or
Yeah,
like
big
London.
cities. London often is one where like Cambridge is considerably whiter than some areas of London. But I think it's like I know the Black community in Cambridge is strong. Like, there are so many people who are willing to talk, and like there are so many societies, and I feel like it's the same for like many minority ethnic groups. Like, even though the representation might not be like exactly what you're used to, whether it's more or less, there is always a sense of community that like people are very good at building out for themselves. So I think it's something to consider, definitely. Like, diversity wise, Cambridge isn't the most diverse place in the world, but there are spaces and there are places, and it's like, yeah.
And how has Cambridge matched up against your preconceptions, or like your thoughts of what Cambridge would be like before you'd started, and now 3 years in, like, is it more or less diverse than you expected it to be?
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I think especially when I was applying to Cambridge, like, I was just like, oh my God, I'm gonna be surrounded by like loads of like rich white men. Like, that very much was my perceptive, like that was my perception of Cambridge. I've never met anyone like who looks like me who's gone to Cambridge. Like, that wasn't something that I knew, I guess. And I guess like 3 years in, Cambridge is definitely more diverse than I expected, not only like gender wise, like race wise, but also like class wise. Like, I just think there are so many people from so many different backgrounds, and like there is no like typical Cambridge student. I think that's something that for me was really valuable. Like, when I was applying, I struggled to see myself as like a Cambridge student, if that makes sense. Like, I just couldn't see how someone like me would fit in a box that just wasn't made for me. But I think it's like Cambridge kind of is what you make it. It's not, there's no expectation of what you're going to be, and Cambridge is so diverse in so many different ways. And I think that's something that I really appreciated, and something I've grown to understand more and more throughout my time here.
Nice. And it's only pointing towards being more and more diverse with each year that goes, in terms of when you look at the statistics.
I hope so. I think definitely like Cambridge is becoming increasingly diverse, and I hope that it continues to do so. But I think there's also more of an awareness now, like conversations like this are happening like across the university, and the uni are more like perceptive. They are listening to like conversations about decolonising curriculums in all subjects. They're listening about having more like minority ethnic representation in the staffing, in the fellows, things like that. So I think like Cambridge is only going to continue to be more and more diverse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the hope of like podcasts like this and the podcast in general is that, and using YouTube, that it can reach anyone who has access to YouTube, and someone who's kind of curious about a subject, wants to work hard to get their grades, and can see themselves wanting to study at Cambridge will then apply no matter who they are. Just one before we finish, one thing I want to ask was, you were talking about decolonising a curriculum. Like, what does that mean? And like, if anyone who doesn't know, like, what does that mean specifically?
I guess, like, again, born out of Cambridge being like a historically very white place, like decolonising the curriculum is kind of about making sure that like diverse perspectives are represented in also what we're learning. So whether that's like who we're studying, like whose voice is represented in the reading list. Are they all old white men from a certain time, or are we getting like diverse perspectives? Are we speaking about what women have thought? Are we considering intersectionality in like different contexts, different conversations, things like that? I think it manifests differently in different subjects, definitely, but I think it's something that they're making an effort to do.
Yeah, and would I be right in thinking that at least that from an academic perspective, a lot of the humanities and social sciences courses at Cambridge intersectionality is quite a big thing.
I think so. I think, like, I can't like speak exactly for the rest of the humanities because I'm not a student, but like I think from what you've seen, like I don't see there's a way that you can study like at a place like Cambridge at the level they're expecting you to without considering like intersectional dimensions, especially in like taking humanities like English, sociology, politics, something like that. Your background, who you are, your intersectional like character is going to inform your work, and that's something that just kind of has to be considered. Like even in law, where things can be a lot more rigid, like if you're working with statute, the rules are the rules, but when you're talking about like reform, is this suitable considering like an intersectional body, like the polity, the people as like made up of different backgrounds with different considerations? These are things that like we are all talking about, so it's definitely a conversation that's ongoing.
Nice. Cool. That sounds really cool. Thanks so much, Florence, for such a really interesting podcast about ethnicity in Cambridge. And thanks for the viewers for watching. We're hoping to do more podcasts about life at Cambridge and kind of wanting to address queries that students might have or prospective applicants might have, and to kind of showcase what life is like at Cambridge and hopefully address those queries. Let us know in the comments if you would like us to do any topics that you want us to do podcasts on, and we'll see you guys next time.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, how was that?
It was good. Yeah. Good fun.
Nice. Yeah, you were phenomenal. Yeah, it was really
Thank
good.
you.